What's going on, everybody, man? Welcome to The Truth with Najeh Wilkins, man. As y'all know, this is my college football show. We talk everything college football. Y'all know week 9 is here. We're going to talk about some of the biggest winners and losers from this past week, preview some matchups. I'm going to unveil for the first time on the show my top 10 wide receivers in college football. Yes, y'all heard it here first. And then we'll get into some Heisman candidates as well, man. So, a lot to discuss, a lot to get into, man. I'm excited. Appreciate all the love and support from everybody, man. Make sure y'all like, comment, subscribe. Y'all know what to do. And hit me for any topics you want to see on the show. Other than that, man, let's go ahead and get into it and rock out. Yes, sir. All right. So let's go ahead and start with some of the biggest losers from this past weekend, obviously in college football. And where we start is we start with the Texas Longhorns, right? And the reason they are one of the biggest losers in college football is because you're coming off that huge win, guys. You know what I'm saying? In a Red River rivalry, you beat your rival. You have everybody questioning, obviously, Oklahoma. Is this team for real? How injured is John Mateer, right? And there were so many questions about Oklahoma coming out of the game instead of Texas. Oh, is Texas back, right? You beat them, I think it was 24-6. Forced 3 picks. Defense is playing well. Offense finally got some things going. But let's be honest, y'all. The offense has been a struggle this year for this football program, right? It has. And part of it is their offensive line is just not good enough, right? Another part of it is that the receivers are not getting open down the field. They're not creating separation. Parker Livingstone's your best receiver there. Part of it's play calling. Play calling could definitely be a little bit better. You believe in Coach Sarkisian and what he can do and what he can bring to the table. So that's another part of it. And then the other part is you just don't have a semblance of a running game, right? Last year you had Jaden Blue, Contrarian Wisner. You had guys and pieces you needed in order to dominate and win football games. This year, you still have Wisner, but it just has not panned out, right? And then you have a quarterback that's finally getting the snaps for the first time. He's in these big moments on the road, had his first true road test against Ohio State, didn't look the best, but it's just been a struggle all year. And like I said, I think it's a part of just all of these integral parts together. I don't think it's just Arch. I don't think it's just the play calling. I think it's the coaching. I think it's, the lack of a running game. It's all those pieces all together that has allowed for Texas to struggle in this way. So that is the reason why I think they're one of the biggest losers. Yes, they survived. Yes, they won a football game, but it was not pretty, right? And I know I got some comments that said, "Oh, well, you don't know football because you said, um, you know, Texas barely survived or he wasn't impressed." Like, I get it. Kentucky's a football team. Kentucky is not good though. Now, granted, in the SEC, any team can win on any given Saturday, right? Of course, guys. I don't disagree with that sentiment. But at the same time, you're supposed to go in that game and handle your business. Kentucky is not the same team they were last year, right? They struggle in a lot of ways. If you Texas, you're supposed to go in there and do your thing, not struggle and get a late field goal to walk it off so you can survive. No. And that's the reason why they dropped in the poll this week to number 22 instead of number 21. And they got to figure some things out, and I don't know how long it's going to take. I already made my statement about Arch. I think for Arch, it's going to be next year. We take that step forward. I wouldn't go into the draft if I was him. I would take another year of development to get better, and I think he can have that arc of a Burrow in terms of, okay, my first year wasn't the best, but then I took my time, right? I got better. We get more pieces and weapons in here, hitting the portal, hitting obviously the signing day, and we bring some pieces in here to obviously allow him to flourish. That's what Texas needs to do. You know what I'm saying, in terms of moving forward. But they're one of my biggest losers, 100% with the struggles, obviously, this past weekend. Next up, it has to be Florida State football. Florida State has been struggling in a major way this season. And they were 3-0. They were 3-0. And it's like, how are you now 3-4? How did you lose on the road to Stanford, who's one of the worst teams in college football and definitely in the ACC? It's like, you have Tommy, right? Obviously, I know he got kind of concussed there towards the end of the game, but you have your pieces in there in order to win football games. You're running the ball well with Gavin Shawshuck, right? You got different pieces in there you can throw the ball to on outside. It's like, why is your team struggling so much? Why are you struggling to get stops, right? And even some of their ADs and their administration has already said, it came out and said, hey, we're having those conversations, right? Of where the football team is, and to think about it, it was really, really, I won't say the mountaintop, but you're on the pinnacle of college football after you beat Alabama, right? You're 3-0 on the year, playing some good football, and then out of nowhere you lose to a really good Virginia team, and then everything just plateaus at that point. You just continue to lose games, continue to struggle, you know what I'm saying, and not come out victorious. They're in a tough spot, man. And like I said, if it spirals out of control like it did last year for them, remember they only won 2 games last year. If they have that same thing, I think Mike Norvell's gone. They've already had that conversation, and I ain't saying he's not a good coach. I think he's a great coach, but you can't have 2 years in a row where you just absolutely collapse. In a team that's having high expectations, a team that's supposed to be one of the classes of the ACC, struggling in this regard. Look, every year is not your year. That's why preseason and all that stuff's all fun, is good, it's hype, but you never know who's going to come out on top. But for Florida State to be 3-4 after being 3-0, being on the pinnacle of college football, being one of the most talked about teams, to now at this point, definitely a tough loss late night on the road. And they're going to have to figure some things out. They're going to have to figure some things out. They want a chance, obviously, in order to, get bowl eligibility. That should be the goal right now. Bowl eligibility, you need 3 more wins. They're going to have to figure it out, man. But the college football playoff hopes are definitely all but done. And now it's, will Mike Norvell be around? Biggest question. All right, so that's my obviously biggest loser there. Another one is going to be Memphis, the Tigers, right? For Memphis and the Tigers, you had great opportunity, right? This week set up perfectly for you. You could have been ranked going into this matchup, and now your CFP playoff hopes are on the line, right? Like, quarterback got injured. You had a true freshman coming there, AJ Hill, on the road, and the crazy part is that was UAB's first win against a ranked opponent, right, since 2021, in the Independence Bowl. So not something they've been doing. And they just fired their coach, Trent Dilfer. And if you're Memphis, you go on the road and you kind of struggle, against a UAB team, right? And, you didn't get a lot from your running game in that one, only 74 yards from DeRozers Jr., you know what I'm saying? In terms of the team stats, you gave up almost 500 yards of offense to UAB of all teams. No disrespect. But UAB offense shouldn't be scaring you to that regard. So that's a team that also I think was one of the biggest losers, because everything's out in front of you. Next week you have the matchup, and they could have been looking ahead. But next week you have this obviously big matchup, which is this weekend against South Florida. How will you respond? Right? You're going to have to win this game if you want a chance in order to be in that conversation for a CFP. Right? And USF, with obviously Byron Brown, obviously Alex Golich, the team has looked good this year. So for Memphis, this is a must-win game. I think losing this one definitely hurt them and did more obviously harm than good. And they definitely struggled in this one with a true freshman quarterback. So they're going to have to obviously get that together, in my humble opinion. All right. Next up, man, we'll go to our winners. Man, winners from this past week, man, has to be the Notre Dame Fighting Irish. What a win. Him and obviously Jeremiah Love. Jeremiah Love really helped, obviously, his Heisman candidacy. He really helped his potential to win a Heisman, with his performance, 228 yards and a touchdown, right? I think that was maybe the 5th highest, they might have it in their program history. Like, he absolutely balled out, and he's established himself as the best back in football. That is what Jeremiah Love is. And like I said, they needed USC badly to be ranked at that point. They got that. Defense forced 2 turnovers, right? And you did what you needed to do offensively. No, it wasn't the best game from CJ Carr, but your other weapons around you, your complementary weapons, stepped up big time in that game, right? You got, a kickoff return for a touchdown by Jadarian Price, right? He rushed for 87 yards in that game as well, right? Your pieces stepped up big for you for Notre Dame. So the Irish as a football team, I thought, helped them out a lot. They send at number 12, right? The rest of the schedule is iffy. That Navy game could help them out too if they're ranked at that point, which is how it's looking and how it's trending. That could be a reality. That could be the case. But nonetheless, what I'm saying, you did what you need to do at home. Now everything else is out in front of you. About 5 games left. Handling your business, man, you should be able to get into a CFP, man. So they definitely one of the biggest winners from this past weekend. Now, this next one, man, got to give credit where credit is due, man. And I think he's the best quarterback that has come through the Georgia program here in probably the last decade, right? Throw out Matthew Stafford, who's obviously been, a pillar in the NFL right now. But this kid right here, man, this Gunnar Stockton, he needs to be on more Heisman ballots, and he needs to be obviously on that list. I mean, what he is doing against, really good teams in the SEC is nothing short of spectacular. Like, he doesn't turn over the football. He takes care of the ball. He performs at a high level for you. And he just does everything the right way, right? This kid is never, phased And you got something here if you're Gunner, right? You got something for Georgia if you want to build in the future. Now I don't know how that's going to look in terms of your QB situation moving forward. Obviously, you got Ryan Puglisi who might end up hitting the portal. Right, you bring in Jared Curtis, who's going to be a 5-star prospect, but you got something here in Gunner Stockton, and in the big games he performs, and that's the great part about him. Big games he plays at a high level, and again, one interception on the year. This is why I say I think he's one of the top quarterbacks in college football nobody's talking about, right? 10 touchdowns this year, 70.5% completion percentage. Excuse me. He's getting it done. Gunner is getting it done. And he deserves to be recognized for his performance and what he's been doing, man. So, he's my biggest winner in this past game. Obviously, balled against Ole Miss, 289 yards passing and 4 touchdowns, 84% completion percentage, the highest of the season. And what I loved is this defense of Georgia struggled, right? They struggled. They couldn't get things going. They was giving up a lot of big plays, to obviously Ole Miss and the Rebels, and he continued to come back and forth, and making throws and making reads and keeping the ball and keeping drives alive. So when you have that at the quarterback spot, you always have a chance in the game. And he's never going to put this team in a position, I think, to fail or in a compromising position to lose games. When you have that at the quarterback spot, you feel pretty darn good. And I think Georgia really got one. Only a junior. Next year, obviously, he'll be a senior. This kid can play. He's waited his turn, and he's been balling out for the Bulldogs, man. And you maybe be thinking, why he didn't start earlier? This kid can flat out play. I've been impressed with him. One of my biggest winners, obviously, from this past week. All right, let's keep rolling. Obviously, Georgia. My last but not least is the program down in Tempe, Arizona. Obviously, outstanding win for them. This past week. Pull it up here. All right. Obviously, outstanding, win this past week for Arizona State, man. A team that needed it, right? Obviously got whooped a few weeks ago when they played Utah, but you end up being a really good Texas Tech team, handing them their first loss of the season. Yes, it was struggles. Yes, Texas Tech fought back in this game and nearly came back and obviously won when he was up 19-7. So you got to close out games, definitely better, but you'll take the win, right? Number 24 right now. Now you got to handle your business, moving forward, right? And your quarterback, Sam Leavitt, had a good game. So we know when he plays, we know this Arizona State team is going to be a problem, right? They're going to be in any game. He can make every throw on the field, and he's going to do what he needs to do, man. So a big win for them in a program. Upset win, obviously, over Texas Tech. And they really made this week the Big 12 more interesting. It was interesting before, but there's no team that can run away, right? You got Cincinnati in there, right? You obviously have BYU in there. Texas Tech is still going to be in that conversation. Arizona State. But now you kind of bring teams back to the pack a little bit. So great win for Arizona State. They definitely deserve, obviously, being on this list is one of my biggest winners from this past week. Did what they needed to do to come out with a win. And Sam Leavitt had another stellar game, obviously, for them. All right. So there y'all have it. Those are my biggest winners and losers from this past week of college football. Now, let's go ahead and get into, obviously, my top receivers in college football. All right. First time I'm doing this on the show. We'll see how it does. I'm going to do a video on some of my other platforms and how this come out as well, man. But I'm happy to reveal my top 10. Yes, sir. Najee Wilkins top 10. Let's go ahead and get into it. Here it is, man. My top 10. Designed it myself. Y'all let me know down what y'all think down in the comments. All right. But this is how I have it. Top 10 receivers in college football. At number 1, say what you want, is Jeremiah Smith, bro. I mean, when you look at him in physical specimen, what he did as a true freshman, I know the numbers aren't on pace of what he did last year, but Ohio State's rolling once again, right? He's coming up obviously big for his program, and they're playing at a high level. You have to double team him, and that's the thing this year. Like, people don't take into account, he's getting more of the defensive attention, right? More eyes are on Jeremiah Smith. So, he's having to, be able, to affect the game in other ways. But the numbers are starting to shrink up a little bit. Look at it, 49 catches on the year, 602 yards, and 7 touchdowns, obviously, this year for Jeremiah Smith. He's playing some great football, and I think he'll definitely be over 1,000 yards before the season is over, and he's getting better and better in games. You look at the performance from early on in the year compared to now, starting to track in more performances, right? Minnesota, 7 catches, 67 yards, 2 touchdowns, right? Illinois, 5 catches, 42 yards in the tub, 9 catches, 97 yards in the game against Wisconsin. His numbers are getting better as the season has worn on, man. So I've been impressed. I think he's a dude. and I think he's a guy that we need to talk about a little bit more. He's number one in my rankings. Then number two, he's obviously in that conversation for the Bolitnikoff Award winner. And that's Mekhi Lemon. Now I know that the team didn't look that good this week. He still performed though. Still had 5 catches, I think almost 90 yards receiving this past week. Mekhi Lemon's that dude, and he's special. Him and Jacoby Lane obviously makes that USC offense go. And when you have a potent offense like that, you can always be in any game. The problem is the defense. Defense just doesn't step up ever. Obviously in this new era with Lincoln Riley and before that, he became the head coach. They just don't play no defense. But Mekhi Lemon is electric. Go watch his highlight tape. Go watch what he's able to do against defenders, his separation at the top of his routes, his ability to catch the ball and yards after catch. He's just a big-time player, and he's a stud. You know what I'm saying? And he's that dude. So for me, he's one of the top receivers in college football. And I think he's riding that Bolitnikoff Award, as well. But like I said, if Jeremiah Smith keep doing what he's doing, he'll be the runaway once again. Now, he's hit a little bump in the road at number 3, but early on in this season, he was leading in receiving yards, touchdowns. Chris Brazzell had been special for Tennessee. He still is, right? But getting more defensive attention now, right? Because he's a big play guy, right? He showed you against, obviously, Georgia, he can catch the 50-50 ball, right? He could be a deep threat down the field, right? He can turn small gains into large gains. Chris Brazzell is another guy that's been special this season, and he's continuing to move up boards as well. So I like what he's been able to do. I think he's dynamic, and he makes this Tennessee offense one of the top 5 units in college football. When you look at total offense, Tennessee is number 5. Now, obviously, they can run the ball with Deshaun Bishop. Obviously, they can run it with Star Thomas. But they also have a guy that gets it to an outside that can cook you, along with the Mike Matthews and the Braylon and Staley. They have pieces, but this offense wouldn't be as good if it was for Chris Brazzell II, right? So he deserves his praise. For me, he is number 3 in the country. I like what he's been doing. Number 4, and he cooked my Hurricanes, unfortunately, but Chris Bell, man. And he's so underrated to me. And I know you're going to be like, well, Najeh, why you got him so high at number 4? But I feel like Chris Bell deserves that. I feel like he's done enough to show, hey, I'm one of those guys that needs to be talked about more in college football. And so many people sleep on him, but he's one of the top dudes. He's averaging 14.5 yards per catch, 44 catches, 638 yards this season. And like I said, cooked my Hurricanes this past week. And one of the reasons why Louisville was in that conversation for an ACC championship, right? Only one loss so far in conference play. They only lost to Virginia in an overtime game. And he cooked, like I said, my Hurricanes. 9 catches, 136 yards, and 2 touchdowns. Dude's a dog. Next level type of a player, and definitely deserves to be in the top 5 humbly on this list. And I think he's been cooking teams all year. Number 5, obviously, Malachi Toney. I like what he's been doing for my Hurricanes this year, man. To come in as a true freshman and doing what he's doing, the kid is just electric, man. And he just plays the game the right way. And he's really our best receiver as a true freshman, right? Which is crazy to think about. He's our best receiver. And I like C.J. Daniels, and I like what he does. We have to find more ways to get Toney the ball, though. And you go, you look at some of these games, right? Florida State cooks him for 2 touchdowns, right? His ability after the catch, his explosiveness, right? A lot of things this dude brings to the table that makes him special. And I like how dynamic he is, right? And he's averaging 13.4 yards per catch. When you doing that, man, that there is special. You know what I'm saying? Last game against Louisville, 9 catches, 135 yards, right? He hasn't had less than 40 yards in the game this season. He needs the ball more in his hands. Humbly, he needs the ball more in his hands. He is that good. He is that special, right? And I think even only being a true freshman, he's established himself as one of the best receivers in college football. That's how I have it ranked. That's why I like what I've seen from him. Next up, another guy that's been a stud, Mario Craver out of Texas A&M, man. He's been lighting it up this season for them, over 500 yards receiving. Him and Kevin Concepcion have been doing their thing. Defenses haven't had an answer this year. And Craver's another guy. Go roll the tape against Notre Dame. You see what he did against a pretty decent secondary, right? With Christian Gray, several players on there that have been playing at a high level, right? He cooked them boys. You know what I'm saying? So Craver, you're going to see it this weekend against Texas A&M, against LSU. What he can do against, elite defenders, and this guy, smooth, man. Just smooth game, electric, dynamic. Obviously deserves to be on this list with what he's been able to do. I like him, man. Very special player. 7, Elijah Surratt. Indiana, man. I like what he's been able to do this season for, obviously, the Hoosiers. one of the main weapons, obviously, for Fernando Mendoza and what this team has been doing this year. And he's continuing to obviously play at a high level. And I like his game, right? It's underrated, but he's been in the program for quite some time and is balling this year, right? 603 yards receiving, 9 touchdowns, averaging 14 yards a catch, right? Just getting it done. And in the big games, being relied upon, right? When they went up against Oregon, balled out, right? Senior receiver, 8 catches, 121 yards, and a touchdown in that game. Deserves more praise, man. One of the best receivers. I think whoever gets him next year in the draft, they're getting a steal. They're getting somebody that they can depend on. They're getting somebody that can come up big time for their team. Next up, another underrated pick, Hank Beatty from Illinois, man. Him, obviously, you see it. You look at the Illinois offense and how good it's been. Beatty is just putting up astronomical numbers. Another guy, kind of just virtuoso, do it all, can run every route in the route tree. And a guy that can be kind of that safety blanket, but also can take the top off the defense. Hank Beatty is also another stud, I think, receiver, for their program, and one that doesn't get enough attention, but he's getting attention from me today, and what he's been able to do so far with their program. I like Hank Beatty, slept on, but a dog. Then next up, we'll talk about here in the preview, but Jordan Tyson. You go look at what Jordan Tyson did last week. I was against Texas Tech. Man, it tells you all you need to know, man. The kid just next level, right? He's been doing this for some time. Look at last year's team. What made them so good? They had Cam Scatterbo running the ball, and they had Jordan Tyson on the outside with Sam Living, the true freshman quarterback last year. This year, he's taking it up a notch, and he was pivotal in their win. Like I said, against Texas Tech, and I like what he can do. In terms of creating separation. I like what he can do in terms of his route running skills. A guy that just you give him the ball, you let him cook, man. That's how good he is. And last but not least, some people might have him higher, but Danny Scudero, obviously from San Jose State, another baller, man. He obviously, had one of the best numbers when I had put together this list in terms of production. I think he led in obviously receiving yards and touchdowns. The reason I'll have him higher on some of these guys is because, I also take into account just play, who you're going up against, the level of competition. I think all that stuff still matters, y'all. Say what you want. He has been producing at a high level. He does deserve to be a top 10 receiver. He'd probably be one of those ones like, oh, who is that? Like everybody like, where did he come from? But he's been producing at a high level at San Jose State. But I just think it all depends on who you're going up against. Like Chris Browser's going up against elite defenses, right? Same thing, Kyle Lemon's going against elite defenses. Chris Bell's cooking an improved Miami defense. So you have all that competition, level of competition plays a factor. But he is definitely a top 10 receiver, man. So there y'all have it. My top 10 list of college football wide receivers. Let me know down in the comments how y'all boys will rank it. What you guys think. Did I do good? Did I do bad? Let me know down in the comments, man. But that is my top 10, obviously, for this week, and obviously for college football and the top receivers currently right now in the sport. All right, man. Let's keep going. Let's go ahead and obviously hit some of these previews, man. And we're going to go ahead and start with the big boy. We're going to start with Texas A&M. Obviously versus LSU. All right, and to be real, y'all, I mean it's a big game for both teams, right? LSU is must win, right? You don't win this game, and you're in trouble. You know what I'm saying? You're in trouble if you don't win this game if you're LSU. So this is a big game, and for the Tigers. Right now, the offensive numbers look better than what it was, but they struggled against Vanderbilt, right? And you're facing another really good Texas A&M defense. They got a guy named Howell. That's a dog. 8 sacks this season for them, or for him, excuse me. A guy that can get after the quarterback. You need Garrett Nussmeier to play better. Simply for LSU, you need him to play better, and you got to have some kind of a running game to keep them, on their toes a little bit. Right, and it's been a little bit of a struggle there for LSU, in terms of that. Right, you brought in obviously the 5-star Harlem Berry. You got Caden Durham, but have not been able to run the ball at a high level, which is putting more pressure on your quarterback. Obviously in Garrett Nussmeier, and is making him struggle a little bit, if I have to be humbly honest. So they got to figure it out. They got the pieces defensively. You go look up and down their roster. They have NFL caliber guys. Monster Delane, Whit Weeks. I know he's been obviously injured here recently. Patrick Payton, like they got guys. DJ Pickett's been playing good this year as well. But what this game comes down to is for LSU, I think you need a hot start in this one, right? Because you look at Texas A&M, they got weapons all over the field. We just talked about one on my top 10 list, in Mario Craver. They got Kevin Concepcion. I know Le'Veon Moss has been injured this year, but they got pieces all over the field they can get the ball to and let them boys cook. So, if you LSU, you got to be able to stop the run, and you got to take away the big plays and explosives. I think that's the key to this game. Take away the big plays and explosives, and let your defense pin their ears back, right? Let their defense pin their ears back. Let them get after the passer, and allow them to be able to go off. I think that's going to be crucial in this one for them. LSU, big game. I think a must win. Must win. You got to be able to beat Texas A&M if you want a chance to even get into, or be in that conversation for SEC potential crown, or to get into the game. You have to. Must win game. Texas A&M. Can you continue up obviously the positive momentum? Marshall Reed's been great this year. 1,770 yards, 15 touchdowns. He's been marvelous. I think he can potentially stamp his name into a Heisman conversation with a big win against LSU on the road. So it won't be easy. Death Valley is never easy to win in at night at 7:30. But a great opportunity for the Aggies to continue moving forward, man. So till I see it for LSU and Garrett Nussmeier in the running game and better play calling, I'm going with the Aggies, man. I believe in Marshall Reed and Coach Mike Elko. I like their defense and how they can get after you. Really good running backs as well. This team is loaded. They're ready. I'm going with the Aggies, man. Big win over LSU. I'm going to go 34-24 win on the road for the Aggies. All right, let's hit the next one, y'all. All right, the nitty gritty. Let's hit it. All right. I don't know why it's taking forever to load. All right, here we go. Sorry, y'all. Appreciate y'all bearing with me, man. All right, so next one, man. Vanderbilt versus Missouri. This game, obviously, ESPN College Game Day is going to be in attendance for this one. Big game for both teams, right? Missouri, obviously, not getting necessarily what you want. You escape against Auburn, right? He was able to do enough towards the end of the game, but offense didn't play really good, right? Bo Pribula struggled in that game. I think he had a couple picks. You need him to play better, especially if you're going to pull out a road victory. Got to find a way to get Ahmad Hardy going. Last few weeks have been kind of a struggle. Defenses are keying in on him, so you got to find a way to get him maybe leaving the ball in space. But if you're Missouri, big game on the road. Obviously, Eli Drinkwitz has been doing a good job so far this season. You got it. If you're Missouri, you're going to have to hit on the big plays. Down the field. You have to take advantage of obviously the Vanderbilt defense, and the big thing defensively, find a way to stop Diego Pavia. I think that's the key right there. Is find a way to stop Diego Pavia. Obviously, if you are, the Tigers, you got to find a way to slow him down. He's already kind of cemented himself as maybe a college football Heisman candidate. You got to find a way to slow him down, and then get Coleman Jr. the ball, right? Get Kevin Coleman Jr. the ball. He showed you what he can do with the ball in his hands. Senior wide receiver. Find a way to get him to rock, obviously in open space, and let him do his thing, and obviously let him cook. That's going to be key to me, obviously, for, Missouri in this game, getting after the passer, affecting, Diego Pavia. And if you're Missouri, go look at what Alabama did. Alabama gave a good blueprint to slow him down, contain the edges, create pressure, pressure the receivers, slow down the running game, and you have obviously a chance to do that. If I'm Missouri, I'm doing that. For Vanderbilt, obviously, lean on your Heisman candidate, right? Lean on the running game with Cedric Alexander. You got the RPO game, and you're gonna have to hit on some of them shot plays down the field, right? They've shown a little bit of susceptibility, a little bit, for Missouri. So you're gonna have to find ways to be able to capitalize on that if you're Vanderbilt, But you showed like a defense plays complementary football, right? We've seen that this past weekend. They're gonna do what they need to do, and they're gonna keep you in the game while you figure it out, while you get it together. So obviously, if you Vanderbilt, you feel good about that. You feel good about Pavia. You feel good about your receivers. Just find a way to get out early to the game, and you should have a good shot to come out on top. Really good football team, really good program. Should be a great game, and I think college football playoff implications for sure. Obviously, big in the SEC because both teams only have one loss this year. Somebody's going to lead this game with two losses. So big game. Can Bo Prabula get it done for Missouri? Can they air the ball out? Can they take advantage of a little bit of those lapses in the secondary? We're going to see, man. But I'm going to roll with Vanderbilt. I'm going to go Vandy. I was thinking Missouri, but I'm going to go Vandy. I think this is just one of those years, man. First 6-1 start since 1950. Pavia playing at a high level, doing what he needs to do, obviously for his program and his team. I think they're ready, and I think they're ready for the moment, and I think they're going to continue to track forward. Now, does that equal a SEC championship? I don't know quite yet because SEC is so bundled up. I'm not sure who's going to be that team that comes out. But again, they could be this year's Tennessee, right? When you look at Vanderbilt and what they're able to do, right? Last year, Tennessee, I think they won 10 games. They didn't get to a SEC championship, but they got in, right? We've seen the committee, like they're going to favor you a little bit more from the SEC because they know you're playing in tough games week in, week out. So continue to get these wins. 7 games in, right? You got 5 games left, right? After that, it's going to be 4 for Vandy. 4 games left, everything out in front of you. This is another great opportunity at home. College game day, all the college football eyes are going to be on you. You have a great chance and a great opportunity. I'm going with Vandy, man. They should be able to handle business against Missouri. Commodores come out on top. There you have it. All right. Let's see. Let's check the next game. All right, man. So for this next one, man, we going down. We going to the Big Ten. All right, and this game's underrated, but it's a big game. It is, and for Indiana, you should win this game. I'm gonna just put it out there. You should win this game, obviously against the Bruins, right? But why this game is more interesting? They've won 3 consecutive games. UCLA has, right? They've done what they needed to do, right? Nico Amaliava's playing some better football. I think he's up to 1,600 yards, passing 10 touchdowns, right? Struggled a little bit in that last game though. He had 2 interceptions against Maryland. They did come out on top. He has to play better in that, but the play calling is better. This team is believing. They upset Penn State. That was part of the reason why that thing kind of spiraled out of control and they let go of their head coach James Franklin. Lot going in this game, and UCLA is playing at a high level. So I know Indiana will be ready. I think they have one of the best fronts in the country. You know, when you look at what they could do on the defensive line, they obviously have one of the better receivers, I think, in the country, as you guys seen in my list. Obviously, with Elijah Surratt and what he's doing this season with the program. Fernando Mendoza is a Heisman candidate. Obviously, he's been performing at a high level so far this year, and you've beaten some quality opponents. You went on the road and you beat Oregon. You showed that you deserve to be in this spot, and everybody is bought into this program. So I think when you have that, it's going to make it tough for UCLA to come in there and play upset, right, or come in there and make a difference. And I think that with that pressure that they can generate, obviously with Indiana, I think it's going to give Amaliaba fits, and he's shown that he has his highs and his lows. The problem with Amaliaba is he's inconsistent, right? He's inconsistent. So with that front, that pressure, what they're able to do offensively, I think they can get out to an early lead and pretty much dominate UCLA, man. So I think Hoosiers with Mendoza in the season he's having, what he can do on the ground game, Surratt, they can get the ball to on the outside. I think they're going to be ready to go in this one. I got them winning big over UCLA, limiting them to only 10 points in this game, 38-10 win for the Hoosiers. I just think they have too much for UCLA to contend with. And I think with all the weapons and the pieces, how bought in this program is, and ability and want to win, I think Indiana dominates this one. So I'm going with the Hoosiers with a big game and obviously a big win over their program. All right, let's find the next one. All right, so next one is going to be Ole Miss, obviously in Oklahoma. ABC game, big game for both teams, man. Oklahoma coming out with a big win this past week, you know, obviously on the road. Major victory for the Sooners. Can they follow that up and do it at home against Ole Miss? And for Ole Miss, everything's still out in front of you. You're number 8 team in the country, but don't allow that loss to Georgia. That was my concern. Don't allow that loss to Georgia to spiral out of control, right? And if you are Ole Miss, like your offense was balling last week against Georgia. They had no answers, but now you're going to have to find a way to go against one of the best defenses in the country. This team ranks number 1 in total defense in Oklahoma. You're going to have to find a way to be able to score points. My concern with Ole Miss is their defense. Besides Sunterrain Perkins, who else will step up for you? Who else are going to make the plays that needs to be made in this game to win, right? I'm not sure. And last week was concerning. Not saying Georgia don't have pieces, not saying Georgia shouldn't be able to score the football, but if you are Ole Miss, you shouldn't be giving up that many points to Georgia. 43 points, like, that's tough. So for me, that's concerning if I'm an Ole Miss and I'm a Rebels fan. I still believe in Trinidad Chambliss. I think he's playing at a high level, in my humble opinion. Struggled a little bit towards the end of that game. But when teams bring blitzes and they try to speed him up, he has to be more accurate with the football. He was not that in that game. And you need some semblance of a running game. I'm going to keep saying it. The best teams in college football can run it and they can pass it, right? You didn't do that against Georgia, right? Kewan Lacey struggled. You got to find a way to get the running game going and not put so much on your quarterback and make it seem one-dimensional. Yes, you had big plays of Stribbler, excuse me. Big plays of Hilton Deuce Alexander. You did what you needed to do there. But at the same time, you have to be able to have a running game. So then when it comes down the stretch and they need to stop, you can run the ball and thump them. So for Ole Miss, those are some of my concerns. Can you win a big game? Can you win a big game if you Lane Kiffin? Right? You've done good this year, right? Nobody's expecting you to win this game. 2 tough road tests. It's going to show us what Ole Miss is made of, right? Now, credit, you didn't get whooped by Georgia. You was in that all the way to the end. Credit to you. But now you're facing a whole nother behemoth in the number 1 defense in the country in total defense. You're going to have answers. For Oklahoma, you feel pretty good. You got your quarterback back. He got a swag back last week. He's throwing the ball at a high level. And you did what you need to do. And this team is college football playoff worthy. And the reason I say that is because of what we just said with their defense. So all you need is a competent offense to score over 20 points. Your defense 9 times out of 10 is going to slow down opponents. And just don't put the ball in harm's way, right? So you got to credit Brett Venables. You got to credit what he's been able to do with this team again and having one of the better defenses in the country. So for that reason, I'm going to roll with Oklahoma. I still think defense wins games. And when you have that and the defense with Ole Miss is one of the worst ones in the country, I'm going to lean on Oklahoma in their defense and being able to get stops, force turnovers, make it tough for Trinidad Chambliss, and make Ole Miss one-dimensional. I'm going with the Sooners, man. I'm going to go 38-17 victory against Ole Miss. I'm going with the Sooners. All right, y'all. Let's hit the next one, man. Pretty good one, man. Obviously, in South Carolina, as they're going to host one of the best teams in the country. And I'm gonna be real, opportunity, right? And I think there's a lot on the line in this one for South Carolina. No, I don't think they're in a position where they're going to fire head coach Shane Beamer, but they just let go. Obviously, their offensive line coach. That's obviously played a factor into some recruits and things like that. But I think the Gamecocks have a great opportunity here to hand Alabama, who's one of the best teams in the country, their first loss of the year. Right? Will it happen? I don't know. Right? The reason I say they have a great opportunity is because you have one of the better quarterbacks, I think, in the country, in obviously Lenore Sellers. Now, look, the record's not going to show that. You've struggled this year. The play calling hasn't been great. Mike Shula hasn't been diagnosing it up. He had a season low 224 yards, total yards last week, and you only had 7 points. That ain't going to get it done. But you've shown me against teams like Virginia Tech, a couple games this season, Bakari Swain, if he can get a punt return for a touchdown or kickoff return for a touchdown, right? You have obviously Nick Harbor, who has shown flashes this year of being a good receiver, right? You need everything to come together if you're going to do this, right? And you're in a spot in South Carolina, right? Your playoff hopes are done, right? 3-4, 1-4 in the SEC, it's done. But you can create some great morale. You can create some buy-in, some camaraderie with this group if you're able to come out and beat the number 4 team in the country, right? That's just the bottom line. But you're going to need a lot to go your way because Alabama's talented. We know about LT Overton, who's their best, defender on defense. We know about obviously the ascendance of a Dijon Lee in the back end of that secondary for Alabama, right? Xavier Brown had a pick 6 last week against Tennessee. This program is really good. They're going to be tough to beat, and they're going to always bring their hard cap. You know what I'm saying? Always. So, excuse me, when you have that, you feel pretty good if you're Alabama, right? And then you have the best quarterback, I think, probably in the country, right? You got Ty Simpson, who takes care of the football, who's a Heisman candidate, right? I just did a film breakdown on him, and I was impressed. Besides maybe a couple things here and there where he could have took some check downs or some crossing routes or whatever it may be, he takes care of the football. He's usually pretty smart with it. And you got the weapons on the outside, Jeremy Bernard, right? You got Ryan Williams, Isaiah Horton. Your tight ends are playing well, right? You got a running game with Jam Miller and obviously Kelvin Hill. Like or Daniel Hill, excuse me. You got the pieces, But if you're South Carolina, I think this is really a must-win game for morale, belief in Coach Shane Beamer, and what this team is doing. The best way to do that is to beat a really good team in Alabama. It helps you out. It gets fans off your back, off your neck. It really helps you, But I'm gonna roll with the Crimson Tide, man. I think they're back. I do. I think they're back. A lot of people's questioning Kalen DeBoer and what he could do with this team and how they got whooped, obviously by Florida State, and they took and heard all that noise, and they tuned it out. They tuned it out. That's what I liked about this team. They heard all people say, "Oh, they're not a physical team. Bama's done. They need to get a new head coach." Everybody was saying that after the week 1 loss, and that's why I love college football because people overreact so much to week 1. When in the grand scheme of things, yes, it matters, but at the same time, it doesn't. There's still a whole 11 games still to play, and we see it all the time in the NFL. A team might start 4-0, 5-0, and then taper off. You don't need to be playing your best football at the first game of the season, right? You need to be playing your best football towards the middle, towards the end of the season, right? You got to get hot. And like they always say in football, get hot at the right time. I feel like this Alabama team has gotten hot at the right time. And with it being mid-season now, has everything in front of them to get to a national championship. And they got the quarterback to deliver it for them. They do. So for that reason, I'm going with Alabama and the Crimson Tide over South Carolina. Big victory for them, man. I'm going to go 31-17 over South Carolina. I think South Carolina makes it interesting in the first half. The ability to kind of run the clock, lean on Lenore Sellers, and make it interesting. Bama struggles a little bit early on, 14-3 lead early for South Carolina, but they figure it out, and they obviously get on in the second half and run away with the game. I'm going with Alabama. All right. Next game, let's talk ACC. Let's go ahead and talk about Georgia Tech. Georgia Tech. Yes, sir, man. Georgia Tech in Syracuse. Obviously, big game, man. Y'all running up this every time I talk about it. Hold on. I see I'm buffering. All right. Georgia Tech. Yes, sir. Georgia Tech. Georgia Tech and Syracuse, man. Let's talk about it, man. Big game on the flats. It's homecoming weekend for Georgia Tech, right? You're gonna have the fans have been supporting you. You've been playing at a high level. I really liked what I saw in that second half of that game against Duke. I was thoroughly impressed. That offense for Duke is dynamic. I feel for any other team that has to play them the rest of the season because you're going to get a tough punch, right? That team is going to probably win more games than you think. And don't be surprised if you see Duke 9-3 or 10-2. You know what I'm saying? Or I think actually they might have 3 losses. Yeah. 3 losses, first loss in the ACC. That is correct. Yeah, don't be surprised to see them. I'll reframe that. Don't be surprised to see Duke like 8-4 or 9-3. Like they're a pretty good football team, right? Defense played well against Georgia Tech. Took away their run, limited Jamal Haynes, limited Malachi Hosley. But Georgia Tech figured it out in the second half. And the key in that game was Georgia Tech gave up the yards, but in that red zone, they were great. 3 of 5 in that game. Duke was going against them. And Jordan Vandenberg gets my game ball from that last week in that performance. He played great. And Jai Gilmore, 11 tackles, 2 tackles for loss, half sack, 2 passes defense. He did what he needed to do in that game. He's been special this year for Georgia Tech, right? So for the Yellow Jackets, everything is out in front of you, right? Now, when breaking down this matchup in this game, I think you got to find a way to get the running game going, obviously, right? It's nice to have the luxury to lean on Haynes King, right? And he's going to do everything that he needs to do to help lead this team to a victory, right? Whether it's on the ground or passing. Last week, 200-yard passing game, 100-yard on the ground. He's going to do everything he needs to do to help you win this game. That's Haynes King, right? But also in playing this caliber of an opponent, don't sleep on Syracuse. Obviously, they have the pieces. They have a good team. But you should be able to lean on your running backs in this game, right? You should be able to lean on guys like Isaiah Canyon and Eric Rivers and things like that, right? Those should be guys that you can lean on in order to make big plays for you. Just that simple, right? And get the tight ends involved, right? Last week they did good. I'll keep saying it. A lot of Georgia Tech fans agree with me. Josh beat them, right? A catch in 49 yards, right? JT Byrne catch. I think he had almost 20 catching 21 yards, right? Luke Harpring catching 24 yards. Get them guys involved because the more they're involved when you're struggling early on in games, it's going to open up the big plays down the field, right? One-on-one coverage with a Kenyon, with a Rivers, with a Rutherford, right? And it's going to allow your team to be able to cook, right? So that's the key for Georgia Tech. Get that going. When the team's trying to shut down one thing, you beat them in another way, which they have shown they can do throughout the year, which I've been very impressed with. So the keys in this game: get the running game going, allow your defense to pin their ears back, right, and get after the quarterback, because Syracuse is very turnover prone. Unfortunately, they lost their quarterback. Great acquisition, I say, by the way, from Notre Dame against Steve Angeli, but he tore his Achilles against Clemson. This offense ain't been right since. Their quarterback has in back-to-back weeks 3 interceptions in each game, right? He just turns over the ball too much, right? And they got a pretty good running game. Coach Key has talked about it in his press conferences and how much he likes their backs. Good receivers out there as well. Obviously, in Justice Simmons, right? You also got, obviously, Jonte Cook, who's having a resurgent year under head coach Fran Brown. So they got pieces to hurt you. But I think with the defense, secondary, how it's been playing, Georgia Tech has to remain opportunistic, take advantage of what they're seeing, and make plays on the ball. If they do that, they should be just fine in this game, man. I got Georgia Tech big time in this one. 41-14 victory over Syracuse. I think Tech just has too much. And despite them dealing with some things and injuries and stuff like that, which I know will come out tomorrow after the press conference with Coach Key, they have too much depth this year where they can lean on guys like Traylon Maddox and several others. Jamal Haynes, obviously Malachi Hosley. They have too many pieces. And I think this is just a game for them to get right, continue trekking forward, and continue playing at a high level. I think Georgia Tech wins this one. I think with a turnover-prone quarterback, this is not a game, if I'm a Tech fan, I'm really worried about. The one is next week when you play NC State. That game might worry me a little bit. But this one against Syracuse, no disrespect to Coach Fran Brown. I know they lost last year. I know that's on their minds. Bailey stopped to talk about that being an extra incentive for their team and their program. But at the same time, I think Yellow Jackets they have too much talent. And I think the talent is going to overweigh all that and their hard work and their grit. So Yellow Jackets big, 41-14 victory over the Orange. All right. So we hit Tech. Let's hit this one. It's another big game in the ACC, man. NC State and obviously Pittsburgh, right? Big game for both teams, right? Because if you NC State, a lot's ahead of you. Your quarterback's quietly having a good year. Obviously, in CJ Bailey, he's performing at a high level. He's been improving as a passer this year. Pittsburgh, you're coming off a good win, right? And the reason it is like Pittsburgh, you're 3-1, right? Most people would count you out because you're 5-2, but everything's in front of you. You've been playing well this year, right? You got Desmond Reed, who's your all-purpose back. He can do a little bit of everything, right? CJ Bailey, like I said, 1,846 yards passing this year. He's been playing well. The key in this game for me, though, however, is what is the answer for the Pittsburgh defense against Hollywood Smothers? Smothers is near 1,000 yards rushing this year, right? He's been really good for the program and for the team. What is your answer to slow him down, right? How do you slow him down if you Pittsburgh, right? And can you create pressure on a CJ Bailey who's improved as a passer this year? That's going to be some key questions that they have on the road, playing up against obviously Pittsburgh. So can they do that? If you obviously NC State, can you take away some of the looks, right? Can you make it tough, for them? Can you fix those road woes that you struggle with if you NC State? You play really good at home, but you struggle a little bit, obviously, on the road. How do you take that away? Can you play the time possession game to your advantage if you're NC State? Right? Are you able to do that and play that against Pittsburgh, a team that kind of does it to other people, right? High stakes, high scoring. Mason Heinstro's played well this year, stepping in for Eli Holstein. Desmond Reed's the all-around, all-purpose back that they have. I mean, they have a lot of good pieces, man. So this is an interesting game. Two that are obviously fighting to stay into the ACC race. and two that are obviously playing at a high level. But Williams Jr. is going to be one to watch. In this game, obviously for Pittsburgh, he's having a strong season, 27 catches, 426 yards, and obviously 4 touchdowns. He's been performing at a high level, and I really like Rasheed Biles for Pittsburgh. 52 tackles this year. He's been playing at a high level as well, and he's been doing everything that the team needs him to do. But yeah, it kind of comes down to that, right? Can CJ Bailey make the plays down the field? Can they kind of establish that time of possession and keep Pittsburgh off the field? Do they have an answer in the plan to slow down Desmond Reed in this game? Those are going to be some key pieces to watch for. Nonetheless, I'm going Pittsburgh. I think Pittsburgh is better than people think, and people forget the Panthers last year. They started off 7-0. Right, it was one of those surprising teams. Yes, it fell off a little bit after they lost Holstein, obviously towards the middle to the end of the season. But Pittsburgh's a good football team, and I think they're going to knock out NC State. Unfortunately, in their chances, obviously, to get into the ACC, race at the top, and they'll be 4-1 on the year. So I'm going with Pittsburgh, big win over NC State. I'm gonna go 35-21 win over NC State. Going with obviously the Panthers. All right, next game, y'all. SMU. They're going to play Wake Forest. This is a very, very interesting game. And it's actually a slept on game from a lot of people. And the reason it is because, no one's thinking Wake Forest is a good football team. But Wake Forest, we've seen it against Georgia Tech. They gave it one of their best shots, obviously, when they went on the road and played them. Now, SMU is 3-0 in the ACC. People are forgetting about them as well. They're in that race, too, for ACC crown this year. Right. But it's just, to me, this year, it's been the up and downs of Kevin Jennings. Right. We look at the stats and you read it out and you dissect it a little bit. He's turning over the ball a little bit too much. He's throwing the ball in the tight windows and it has not been resulting in good things. 7 interceptions this year, and he's also been sacked 12 times. Right. So that plays a factor. Although he has almost 2,000 yards passing this year, the defense has showed you they've struggled, right? We've seen Baylor go roughshod over them and put up a hell of amount of points against them. That worries me a little bit because that Wake Forest offense is dynamic. They got Christopher Barnes, right? They can run the ball with Damon Claiborne, right? And their quarterback, Robbie Ashford, has been doing his thing. He showed you that he can air the ball out and he can cook defenses. So that worries me a little bit in this game. So I know everyone's going to go with SMU. I know obviously they're probably the heavy favorite in this one to win. Well, decent favorite. 3.5 spread they're given. Obviously 68% chance of winning according to analytics. But I like how Ashford's been playing. I know the interception is going to look a little bit deceptive, but he is a guy for the most part has been playing at a really high level this year, right? And they got a guy that can take the top off the defense in Christopher Barnes. So it's going to be crucial. It's going to be interesting to see. Obviously comes out in this one, man. But I'm going to go upset, man. I'm going to go Wake Forest. I think Wake Forest has everything they need in order to upset SMU. Defense is a problem for me. I think long as Ashford can take care of the football, right? Their defense plays at a highly decent level, right? They can get pressure on the quarterback. I think they have a good chance to knock off SMU and come out with a win. So I'm going with the Demon Deacons. Home win for them. I'm going to go 31-21 victory over SMU, headed in their first loss in the ACC. I'm going with them. All right, guys. Next one that we'll talk about today. Just keep it rolling. We will go to Illinois versus Washington Huskies, right? Big game, obviously, for both teams. We already talked about Hank Beatty and what he means. And it's a game for Illinois you got to win, right? And the Huskies 2-2, they could really knock you out in terms of your playoff hopes with Damon Williams and everything, and obviously Jonah Coleman, right? They can knock you out. So I'll be a little bit concerned. Now, Washington's coming to this game, their worst performance defensively, or their worst performance offensively. 7 points against Michigan, right? In that game, going into it, I was a little bit concerned, obviously for Michigan and how they would slow down that prolific offense. But they showed the abilities to do it and that they was back defensively. Now, this game has kind of the feel that it could be a shootout, right? Illinois has shown they give up points, they give up yards, and that your team can go up and down the field and put up points on them, right? My thing is, can Luke Altmaier keep pacing this one if it comes to be a shootout, right? I don't know, right? And that's not saying that he can't perform, but let's say he balls out. Can the defense get a stop? I don't know. This Washington team is better than people think. I know they're 2-2 in the Big Ten. I know they're 5-2 overall, but this team, they can run the ball with Jonah Coleman, right? They can air the ball out as well, get the ball to obviously their weapons on the outside in Boston, who's balling out this year for them, leading receiver. And, they have a defense that can pin their ears back and make some plays too. So that is my concern. Can they slow down their offense? And then for Washington, do you have an answer for Hank Beatty? Hank Beatty is one of the best receivers in college football. Plain and simple. Number 8 on my list. I like him. I like what he can do. Swiss Army knife, can do a little bit of everything. He can catch the ball, those big money down plays on third down. Do you have an answer to slow him down? Because he can move anywhere on the field. That's kind of my concern a little bit for Washington. But this is a game for Illinois. You cannot sleepwalk. Because if you do, your college football playoff hopes are done. Right? Now, the committee of schools lost to not LSU, Ohio State. Because Ohio State is one of the best teams in the country. But you can't take too many more L's. Right? You just can't. You got to be able to win and win the big games. But I'm going to trust Illinois. Big road game. You can't get off to a slow start because then you go allow Washington to play with momentum. And if they play with momentum, they're a problem. But I'm going to go Illinois, Luke Altmaier, Hank Beatty. I think it's going to be too much, but this game going to be a shootout. You know what I'm saying? To me, it's going to be a shootout. 34-31 win, Illinois over Washington. Then they come out, get a late game field goal. Luke Altmaier leads the game-winning drive. Going with, obviously, the Fighting Illini. All right, guys. Next game. All right, and a good one. Back to the Big 12. All right, here we go. Really interesting game, right? Now, if you're Baylor, oh, what is this? Hold on, y'all. I'm sorry. Why did they pull this up? Ain't nobody doing no ESPN Watch. I don't know why you did that. Probably because I cut ESPN too. That's on me. But all right, let's get back into the game. All right, Baylor versus Cincinnati. Very interesting game between both teams. I like Cincinnati, what they've been doing this year. They got a star quarterback in Brendan Sorsby, who's been balling. Name nobody's talking about. But similar to Gunnar Stockton, very underrated. This makes the plays elite. 18 touchdowns this year, 1,732 yards passing. He's been one of the reasons why the Cincinnati team is in that conversation. Obviously, to make a Big 12 championship. Only loss this year was to Nebraska. Now, it looks worse now because Nebraska got the crap beat out of them to Minnesota, last week, 24-6 on the road. But you have a pretty good football team if you're Cincinnati, right? A good defense that's very underrated, in my humble opinion. One of the better players in Jake Galladay, who I think will be an all Big 12 selection this year on the defensive side of the ball. He's dominating. 3 sacks, 61 tackles. He's been elite this year, right? But how do you slow down a prolific offense, right? Now, Sawyer Robertson was one of everybody's top quarterbacks going into this year. And I get it. He could throw that ball, right? But he's a little turnover prone too. 7 interceptions this year, right? But he's a guy, he's going to keep on coming, right? He's going to keep on coming and keep on coming, right? And they have a balanced attack, right? They can air the ball out and they can also run the ball with Washington, right? They have a little bit of everything, on that team. So that's what makes Baylor potent and Baylor a really good football program, But at the same time, it's like SMU. I'm not worried about the defense. Give up too many big plays, right? That's the big key in this game. Can you slow down the big plays? I'm not sure, right? That's my concern. And also along with that, can you get after Sorsby if you're Baylor, right? Can you force some mistakes? You know what I'm saying? Can you force some turnovers? I'm not sure. I think this game has big plays written all over it. I think you see both teams air the ball out. You know what I'm saying? But I think you see Cincinnati make plays late in this one to slow them down, right? So for that reason, I think they score 30 points in this game. I think they limit, surprisingly, a really good Baylor offense to just 15 points in this one. Slow down the run, force a couple turnovers, obviously, against Sawyer Robertson, and win this one 30-15, obviously, over Baylor. And I think you see them get one step closer, obviously, to that conversation, which sets up a big bout next week, I believe it is, Texas Tech and BYU, right? I think Cincinnati handles business at home. Sorsby has another big game and continues to quietly creep into that Heisman conversation. I'm going with Cincinnati. All right. Last Big 12 matchup, man, we got Houston. All right. Houston versus Arizona State. Big game for both teams. Massive, obviously, implications, right? Both are 3-1 in the Big 12. And you make the argument Houston is really being slept on. Yes, they are. They're really being slept on this year. Nobody thought Connor Wigman would be this good, but he's been doing the thing he needs to do down there, right? They can run the ball with Connors, who has 538 yards rushing and 4 touchdowns this year. They got weapons in Amari Thomas, right? Houston's a team that's a little sneaky, a little scary when you think about it, because they're a team that can put up points, right? You look at obviously this year, and their offense is putting up points, right? 27 points. Stephen F. Austin, Rice, 35 points. Colorado, 36 points. Oregon State, 27 points. Lost to Texas Tech, limited to 11. Oklahoma State, 39 points. Arizona, 31 points. Big opportunity for them here. This would do a lot for them in order to get into that race in the Big 12, right? Everybody's thinking about everybody else, but you don't want your second loss if you're Houston. And this is a big resume building win as well, because West Virginia, USF, TCU, Baylor, it ain't going to help you, right? You can mess around and be like 10-2 from this schedule, but it ain't going to help you because you didn't play enough quality opponents on this schedule. But like I said, the offense, besides the game, obviously, against Texas Tech, has been doing their thing. They can run it, they can pass it. And like I said, Amari Thomas has been the leading receiver this year for this program, right? So when it comes down to it, we see Arizona State last week against Will Hammonds, obviously with the injury to Brent Morton. They shut it down for the most part, right? They shut it down. You're going to have to do the same against Connor Wayman and Amari Thomas. Can you slow them down enough? You got a home game again, night game in Tempe, Arizona. You just had that big win last week against Texas Tech. They stormed the field, right? I think Arizona State has enough to do it. Now, my concern going into this game is the injury to Jordan Tyson. I don't believe he's going to play. I think their head coach might have came out today with something saying that he's not going to play. So what other weapons, is going to step up for you? Because Tyson's been your guy, right? 628 yards and 8 touchdowns. And we've seen sometimes, even in his absence, this team can struggle a little bit when he's not in the game and get the big plays. Who's your other playmaker that's going to be able to do that for you if you're the Arizona State Sun Devils? That I don't know, right? That's going to be obviously interesting to see, who's going to step up big for this team and who's going to obviously help out there, right? Obviously, you got some tight ends, Mateer, Hamilton, but is that enough? Because like I said, a lot of your offense, as you can see with these stats, Jordan Tyson, he's your guy. He's your NFL caliber guy, right? Or do you lean more on your ground attack with Levin and obviously Brown playing that RPO game and putting some pressure on him with the injury to Tyson? It's going to be interesting to say the least, man, to see what happens there in this game against Houston. But nonetheless, man, I'm going Arizona State. I'm going to go 28-14 victory over Houston. I think they'll have enough, be able to do enough in this one to win. I'm going with Arizona State. All right, man. Last, but certainly not least, man, we got to do a group of 5. We try to do a group of 5 every single week, man. And this is a major one this week. We talked about this team a little bit earlier in obviously Memphis, but they got a big game this upcoming weekend when they obviously go up against USF, right? So when I think about this game, I like Byron Brown. I think he's been really good for them. And I told y'all, I'm a prime proponent. And I said, like, I legit want to see USF in a CFP, and the reason I do is because I think they're a team, I think they're a team that can knock off somebody like as a 12 seed going up against, a fourth rate team in the SEC or a team in the Big Ten that's number 3, whatever. I think they have everything they need to shock somebody. And they've shocked people all year, right? This is what South Florida does, right? Their only loss was ugly to Miami, but they've picked up quality wins. They'll have another big one against Navy going on the road. That'll be another resume building win for them. But this game is massive, and it's the reason why it's on ESPN too, because it's going to determine a lot in the American Conference early on. It's going to determine a lot to see who's going to get that advantage. Now, Memphis, like I said earlier, coming off a loss to UAB, your true freshman quarterback AJ Hill struggled, right? You didn't get really that much of a ground game, and a team you should have beat. They didn't have their head coach anymore. They just fired their coach. Shouldn't have lost that game if I'm being honest. Okay, so if you're Memphis, how do you respond? Right, that's the big thing. How do you respond in this game going against them? How do you step up? Obviously, big there. I think it starts with giving Smith the ball. Letting him run the ball 480 yards rushing this year and 6 touchdowns. He's showing the ability to be dynamic in open space. So lean on him. Byron Brown, he's been good this year. He's one of the reasons why this team is so good for South Florida. The leading rusher and passer. Does a little bit of everything this year, right? And I like the South Florida defense too. I ain't saying this elite. I ain't saying this great. But they do what they need to do. They can force turnovers. They can get after you a little bit and make you press as a passer. If they're going to have a true freshman quarterback, that bodes well for USF, right? No disrespect. AJ Hill can ball. I just see AJ Hill play at Houston County, last year. He can ball. But to put a true freshman in that situation, we don't know the injury to Lewis right now. If he's going to be back in this game yet, I don't think they've released their injury report. If he's not, that's a tough spot to be in. They will be at home, however, hosting South Florida. But again, that's a tough spot to be in as a true freshman. Big game, kind of like win or go home type of an atmosphere. You lose, you're probably out of the CFP. If you win, you're right back in that conversation. If USF, you want to handle your business, right? And a prolific offense that's, like I said, USF's putting up a lot of points this year, right? Last week, I think they had like 60-something points. You know what I'm saying? Scoring has not been the problem, right? Some of it has just been defensively giving up a lot of points. But think about this. 54 points against Charlotte, 63 points against North Texas. You whooped Florida Atlantic last week 48-13. Like, you're doing what you need to do every week offensively. Your quarterback takes care of the ball, right? He's almost like a Haynes King, but at a group of 5 level. And just astronomical numbers for USF. 522 yards in their past game, or in their last game, 263 yards through the air, and peep this, y'all, 259 yards on the ground. A well-balanced attack across the board, man. I like this USF team. I don't think Memphis is ready just yet for this moment. Last year, I know they played against Tulane in the American Championship, but I think USF has too much. I think this is their year, and I think Alex Gold is for real. I think we're going to hear more rumblings and rumors about him, especially if he gets his team to a CFP playoff. Oh, good luck. Good luck with USF going forward and trying to keep Alex Gold from going to some of these big-time programs. I got USF big in this one. I don't think they're ready just yet. 31-17 victory over Memphis. I think South Florida's ready. I'm going with the Bulls. Big victory for them. All right, y'all. There y'all have it, man. That is obviously my predictions. I will post obviously all that and my film breakdowns and everything. Not my film breakdowns, I'm sorry. I will post all of that and obviously all my previews that I did today on tonight's show. Later, obviously, on the channel. Y'all been running those up. Appreciate, obviously, all y'all love and support. Last but not least, our topics. Heisman Trophy candidates, man. We got to talk about them a little bit and how they've been performing this year. So, obviously, after that weak performance from Carson Beck, I took him off. You're done. You know what I'm saying? 4 interceptions. Like, come on, bro. You got a natty contending team, and you play like that against Louisville. Louisville's a good team now in the ACC, but you can't perform like that. Pick it up. Step it up. Period. But he's off the list. But that number 1 for me is Todd Simpson, bro. Another big victory over Tennessee. Did everything he needed to do. Defense helped him out, obviously, with the interception return for a touchdown right before the half. He had a couple touchdown passes in the game to Isaiah Horton and everybody else, right? He hit number 11 as well. He did his thing, right? And this team's well-balanced. You got Jim Miller. You got Daniel Hill, right? You're hitting the big plays down the field with Ryan Williams. Team is good, man. And Ty Simpson is one of the reasons why this team is at the level they're playing at. We didn't think he would be this good. But what he's been doing with Alabama, took that loss on the chin early on in the season, and they've been playing elite football. They beat four, y'all. They beat 4 AP top 25 opponents in the last 4 weeks. Come on, bro. He's the best player right now in college football. Can't tell me no different. Respectfully. He deserves to be on that list. Next up is Fernando Mendoza. I like how he's been playing. Obviously, had that great game against Illinois a few weeks back. Big game, obviously, against Oregon. He's been playing at a high level. Clutch performances all year. And I think he's a guy that a lot of people sleep on. But he's doing everything that the team needs him to do. He's stepping up big. He's hitting his weapons. And he's just winning those big games. Some people complain about their schedule, but again, they beat Oregon, number 8 team in the country. Okay, so I got to put some respect on Mendoza's name, right? Now, I ain't saying everybody's not, but some people are. Put some respect on their name, man. Indiana's for real. Indiana's a national contender, right? And in large part because of Fernando Mendoza and what he's doing with his football team. Give that man his respect. He's number 2 for me. Number 3, who has moved up on my list, Diego Pavia. Come on, man. That game, LSU, top-rated defense, ran all over the boys for 86 yards on the ground, 160 yards through the air. Did everything he needed to do for them to win the game, and his Heisman continues to improve. Like I said, 6-1 start, first time since 1950. It's getting it done, right? That's getting it done. And a team that has not been known as being a really good team in the SEC. Let's be honest. They've always been the bottom tier. Not anymore. This Diego Pavia era, they've been really good. They upset Auburn and Alabama last year, right? They didn't do it this year against Alabama, but obviously just picked up a big win against LSU. Pavia is one of the reasons why. They got to follow up that great performance with another big one, beating Missouri, who's a very improved team. But I think they have everything they need in order to do that and to play at a high level. So he's number 3. Number 4, don't get enough love, man. He don't get enough love. I don't know why. And everyone's gonna say it's Jeremiah Smith and it's obviously Carnell Tate, but Julian Sayin has been special this year, y'all. I don't know what else you want to look for in a quarterback. He is 4th in the country in QBR, 88.4 this year, 1,872 yards passing and 19 touchdowns. He's done everything you needed him to do. He's taking care of football. He's getting the ball to his playmakers. I haven't seen Jeremiah Smith frustrated at all. Excuse me. I have not seen Carnell Tate frustrated at all. That boy been back there cooking. And without his elite play this year, Ohio State wouldn't be this good. They weren't expected to repeat this year because there was questions at the quarterback spot. There's no longer any questions. Dude's been elite. They got to put some respect on his name. Bottom line. They don't play this week, bye week, and they play Penn State, but bro has been balling. Got to put some respect on his name, man. So he's obviously on this list for me. Next, Marcel Reed. Talked about him. Another player not getting enough love. 1,770 yards passing, 15 touchdowns, only 3 picks, 72.4% completion percentage, or 72.4 QBR, which is the number 35 in the country. Had one of his best games recently against Arkansas. We lit up their defense for 3 touchdowns and 72% completions. Deserves more respect. Right? Deserves to be on these lists. Deserves to be at the top of the sport. It's been elite. Got to put some respect on his name too, man. 2 slept on, and I think with a big game this week against LSU, I think he will be on that list as well. He's been too good this year, man, and I think he's one of the reasons why Texas A&M is going to be a special program this year. And don't be surprised if we see them make a deep run in the playoffs this year. You heard it here first. Last but not least, man, got to get some love to my guy. Haynes King deserves to be on this list. Just always doing what his team needs to do to win. Doesn't matter if it's running the ball. Doesn't matter if it's passing the ball. 200 yards passing, 100 yards rushing, 150 yards rushing, 150 yards passing. Doesn't matter. Whatever the team needs to win, he's going to do. If you got to put his body on the line, he's going to do it. If he needs to throw for 300-400 yards, he's going to do it. He is one of the reasons why Georgia Tech's off to their best start since 1966, 7-0. Without him, they wouldn't be as good, right? He's helped this team in a lot of ways. They were building, and now they are here, right? So now it's just getting them to that CFP, getting them to an ACC championship game. I think he has everything he needs to do so. They have everything out in front of them. They continue to win and play at a high level. They should be able to achieve everything they want to achieve. But he definitely deserves to be on the Heisman list as well because he's been balling out. There y'all have it, man. That's my show for tonight, man. Week 9, college football preview, and obviously making storylines and my top 10 college football receivers, man. But that's all I got for y'all today, man. Hope y'all boys enjoy the rest of y'all night. I'll see y'all soon, man. Peace.